Hello, it's Laura of Cooks Books, and I'm here today to talk to you about 23 books that I would absolutely love to read in 2023. So most of these books I've had on my TBR for years and years and years, and they might not necessarily be the highest priority on my TBR, but they're the ones that have been forgotten or pushed to the back again and again and again, and I just want to give them their moment to shine. 23 books to talk about in one video is quite a lot of books, so we won't go too in depth on the plots, but I'll give you as brief of a summary as I can. All that I know, because some of them, even though I've had for years, I know little to nothing about. Let's go. First up we have some classic sci-fi from Ursula K. Le Guin, which is The Left Hand of Darkness. All I know about this is two people go on a long, harrowing journey together and learn that friends are the ones we made along the way. After I read The Master's Tools Will Never Dismantle the Master's House, which is one of these little blue penguin mini classics by Audre Lorde, I was like, this woman is incredible. I need to find out some more of her writing, so I immediately went and bought Your Silence Will Not Protect You by Audre Lorde, and then promptly never read it. It is an anti-racist manifesto for intersectionality and progress in the world, really, from a black lesbian, and really, what more could we possibly want? If you've been around for a while, you might know that there is a certain author that I have beef with because she co-won the Man Booker Prize when she clearly should not have touched it and should have let Bernardine Evaristo win it for Girl, Woman, Mother. I've read quite a few of Evaristo's other books, like Mr. Loverman, The Emperor's Babe, amazing books, but I haven't got to the one that really ignited my hatred of Margaret Atwood, which feels bizarre that I have this grudge with no foundation for it. Soon I will be justified in my loathing. So we follow some girls, some women, some non-binary people, just living their lives, just going about doing the best that they can, and honestly, I'm here for it. So years and years ago I watched a BuzzFeed Unsolved about a Scottish lighthouse where all the men went missing, and I thought, God, that would be a good idea for a story. And then Emma Stonex came through. She's moved the lighthouse from Scotland to Cornwall, I think. But the story is the same. A relief crew turn up expecting to see 3 men on the island, and they're gone with no trace. This might look a bit flimsy. It's just the dust jacket, because I'm currently reading. I've read the kind of little introduction, and it's absolutely amazing. So this is going to get read 100% in 2023. Daisy Jones and the Six, mind-altering, life-changing. My brain chemistry will never be the same. Then Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, also amazing. So I'm trying to find out if I actually do love Taylor Jenkins Reid or it was just a lucky streak. So I picked up Carrie Soto Is Back, and I'm hoping to read this in with some other kind of backlist titles from Taylor Jenkins Reid this year to find out if I do love her or not. This is about a tennis champion who retired and her personal best has been beaten by a newcomer, so she gets back in the game to kind of reclaim her title. Passing by Nella Larson. It is set in the Harlem Renaissance in New York, following, I think, a middle-class African-American family, and they encounter colorism through an old family friend having run away as a child to pass as white, and I think she comes back and she brings kind of all that baggage with her, and it looks at what you gain and what you lose when you try and pass. It's no secret that I've been reading a lot of translated fiction in the past few years, so it feels like I have to read Claudia Pinero's Elena Knows, translated by Frances Riddle. This is apparently a crime novel that's not a crime novel. I don't understand what that means, but if it's not traditional crime, there's a chance I will enjoy it, so I'm going to read it. This next book, you might be like, hey Lauren, that's got tabs in it. So you've read it, right? It's Vanity Fair by William Makepeace Thackeray. In my first year of uni, second year of uni, which would have been 2015, I bought this to buddy read with my housemate, and that's when I learnt buddy reads and shit. Like, I've never had a buddy read that's worked successfully. I got this far in and was absolutely loving it, and then just like it didn't happen. It didn't happen. This is about a young girl who leaves boarding school and I think doesn't have much family, so essentially has to make her own way in the world during a time when it's very difficult for women to do so. And apparently she's just a bit of a bitch, but like maybe it's the first good for her novel. Like, she seems to be beloved even though she's really nasty. So I'm keen to find out. And it is a chonker, I'm actually not that fazed by it because I know how much I was loving it when I started to read it. On to another chunker. The First Wheel of Time book by Robert Jordan. This is The Eye of the World. So, recently made into a TV show. The Wheel of Time is kind of a high fantasy hero's journey kind of set up, and I know nothing else. I know that it's got all the fantasy tropes and there's a million books, and honestly I've just been dying to get my teeth into some fantasy again recently, so I'm hoping at least the first book. I'm not putting any pressure on myself to read any more than that for right now, but I'd like to get a start. This was one that the tables at Waterstones really got me good with. Like, I kept walking in and seeing it on the table last summer and I was like, yeah. Don't know why, but I think this one's for me. The Animals at Lockwood Manor by Jane Healey. This is a historical fiction set during the war. I think that kind of lots of taxidermied animals from a museum have to be stored somewhere safe out of London in case they get blown up in the Blitz. And this so strongly reminds me of Framed by Frank Cottrell Boyce. I don't know if anyone else got that World Book Token book when we were in primary school, but like, that did change my brain chemistry. Where paintings from all the major galleries were stored in an old Welsh coal mine. I get the same vibe from this. Oh yes, next is Margie by Alex Phoebe. The sequel for this has just come out. Or I've just seen it for the first time and realised it's come out. And I still haven't picked up this one. This is supposed to be kind of a very experimental, groundbreaking, unique, never seen before piece of fantasy.
Talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, never the same, totally unique, completely not ever been done before, unafraid to reference or not reference, put it in a blender, shit on it, vomit on it, eat it, give birth to it.
And again, chunker, because chunky fantasy is the best kind of fantasy. But it seems to follow a world where God is dead, people live in hovels, there is a spark of magic that's tramped down and owned by the elite, and we just kind of vibe in the slums until the drama begins. But I don't know if it's just the cover giving me this vibe. I think it's going to be very dark, very nuanced, very layered. So we'll see. We'll see. So we've got another classic now, and it is The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. I read The Moonstone I read The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins a couple of years ago now, 3-4 years ago, and that was a chunker of a book, but it was amazing. This is what The Woman in Black is based on, I believe. It is a Victorian thriller, and I'm not too into anything scary, so I'm hoping that if it was kind of scary to a Victorian audience and shocking to them, it'll just be kind of okay for me, because, you know, we've come a long way. And if I'm going to put myself through it, I need to know that the writing style is good and something I'm going to get on with, and clearly it is, because I read all 800 and something pages of The Moonstone quite happily. So all the way through this video, I'll be saying things like, I'm just really excited for it. I just really want to read it. Not true for this next book. It's Orlando by Virginia Woolf. My dumb, peer-pressured ass bought all of these Virginia Woolf editions from Vintage when they came out, because, yes, they are bloody beautiful. Like, look at that, stunning.
I saw it and I was like, stunning!
Because I was like, there is no way that I won't love this woman, this cornerstone of feminist literature. I just really don't get on with her writing style. I despise Mrs. Dalloway with all my whole heart. And like, the girlies who you see pretending to be Miss Dalloway and trying to live that life, sickening. And since then, I've had all the rest of these books just vibing on my shelf. So it's time, because I'm not getting rid of them, because I bought them and they're beautiful. So even if I don't love them, I need to at least have read them to justify them being there, so I can have an opinion on why I don't think I'm going to enjoy them better. I was really, really excited to read The Well of Loneliness by Radcliffe Hall, because, you know, we love a vocal lesbian from back in the day. However, last summer I read After Sappho when all the buzz was around it for The Man Booker, and great book, fever dream book, absolutely loved it, but it featured kind of real and imagined lesbians in that time period, and it talked about other queer women reacting to the publication of this book and how apparently it seemed like a, you should respect me because I'm basically an upper class man. I can be an unthreatening lesbian. I will vote Tory. So it's kind of slipped a long way down the excitement track. But I want to kind of rekindle the excitement I had for this, and hopefully I find something in there that isn't all terrible. I'm sorry. No. Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I've been reading again for about 4 or 5 years, apparently. You can see how far I got into it because it keeps opening like that. It was about a student who was in hard times, and to be honest, it was just hitting a little bit too close to home. So I'm hoping to leave this for kind of the end of the year, the wintry vibes again. So I feel like if I read a big book at the end of the year rather than just trying to smash through loads of little ones, that'll feel like more of an achievement. And also I just don't want to read it yet. I don't. But right at the end of 2022 I discovered the British Library Sci-Fi Collection, which has kind of aimed to rediscover some beautiful lost classic sci-fi, 2 of which by a woman. Imagine. They're both by the same woman, Muriel Jaeger, and this is The Question Mark. So this, I think, was supposed to be a response to H.G. Wells' kind of utopian view of the future, and the question mark is the question, what if it was just realistic? What would the future look like if we didn't kind of try and idealise how people behave? So I think that's going to be quite an interesting read. Oh, what's this? Another book I've started? This was one of my last commute books when we lived in London, and it just got shoved in a suitcase when we were starting to pack up and move, so I didn't carry on with it. But I got a good few chapters in and I was enjoying it. It's about, so in this world, all the cities who have been around and populated for a certain amount of time gain sentience, and they kind of pour that sentience into a candidate who comes to represent the city and for all intents and purposes is the city. When New York starts waking up, it goes wrong, and all the boroughs filter in different people, and there's some kind of big bad on the scene, and there are other more established cities come to kind of guide them on the way. That's as far as I'd gotten, kind of that initial premise. But I was really enjoying the writing style. It was really, really pacey. So yeah, N.K. Jemisin can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. And that's why she's got 2 books on the list. Again, I think I started this maybe 2 years ago for a try chapter tag. Really enjoyed it, but it was kind of a bit heavier than some of the other books I'd read in that video, and it just didn't get picked. Not that it got put to the bottom of the pile, it just wasn't the top. But this follows, I think, a mother as she kind of goes on an adventure to look for one of her children during the apocalypse. Like, high concept, we love it. Now, I've been reading John Wyndham's Penguin collection for a long old time. This is one of the last ones I think I've got left. It's Stowaway to Mars. So the crew set off on this manned mission to Mars and back, only to find they've got a stowaway called Joan on board. And I know it was probably a very popular name for young women at the time, but I can only see like Nana's called Joan. So I'm 100% gonna headcanon all the way through that this is a proper old granny who's on this spaceship with them. And obviously that throws off all their calculations, all their provisions are now kind of not going to stretch as far as they need to. Joan, you've done it. You've put them in a right pickle. And lastly, this one was a bit of a surprise. Jessie bought it for me at the end of 2022. I'd never really heard of it. It's Little Black by Nat Reeve, which apparently is witchy. It is kind of a historical fantasy, I think, set in 1893. There's almost certainly some kind of witch burnings occurring, and there seems to be some kind of attack on this girl, and she has to run and go into hiding and restart her life. I think that's what this is about. The last physical book I've got here to show you. I don't have the dust jacket because, again, I started it like 3 years ago when it first came out. Took that dust jacket off it to keep it safe. I haven't got a clue where that is now. It's just gone. It's just gone. So imagine we know what this is. It's The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I got a good way into this. I think I was a good third of the way in. And then it was heavy. It was so heavy, and I couldn't hold it up with my spindly little arms. I mean, yes, I was also getting into quite a big reading slump, but let's be real, that was the reason why. I'd quite like to read this before the sequel comes out. Not the sequel, the prequel, just to justify buying the prequel, because if I've had this for years and not finished it, then how can I possibly justify buying another book of this girth? It's about dragons and gay witches and like high fantasy. We love it. So that wasn't 23 books. There are a few more that are still scattered somewhere. This bit of the library might look quite nice behind me. There's still a lot to do and there are still a lot of books lying around. And I just couldn't find the others, so I'm just going to read them to you and I'll pop them on the screen somewhere. Detransition Baby by Tori Peters is about a trans person detransitioning and parenthood and cultural and societal responses to that. And I did start reading it ages ago. I was trying to put a number on it there, a really long time ago. Again, I got hit by that same reading slump and put it down, but my need to read this has kind of been really reignited since I read the transgender issue last year. All the trans books, so any recommendations would be very, very gratefully received. The next one is The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. A couple of years ago I read The Housekeeping Professor by this author. I just thought it was really, really beautiful. It's translated from Japanese, but it felt very different from a lot of the other Japanese translations I'd read. It felt much more kind of lyrical, fairy tale, like I felt something special about the housekeeper and the professor, so hopefully I get that same feeling with The Memory Police. So those are my 23 books I would love to read in 2023. If you have any absolute priorities of your own, please let me know. I would love to hear about it. And also if you've read any of these and you think I need to kind of start prioritising some higher than others, please again let me know, because that's done. But in the meantime, thank you for watching and I will talk to you again about some more books very, very soon. Also my little notebook that I'm using for my video scripts now. Just stunning, truly stunning.
Stunning!